So I set this up here. What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to another forecasting geological something video on the Royal Noir 54 channel. I hope you all are having a fantastic day whenever you guys are seeing this, and I hope to find you all in a good spot, as everything's about to get very interesting here. So I just want to go out on the record, say a few things here to just start. I start school in 2 weeks. I'm going to try and find more time throughout school to make videos, live stream, etc. for you all. Depending on how my schedule ends up working, I may be able to tweak things in my favor so that I could record videos in the morning and do work in the afternoon, or vice versa. It's all going to need to be something that I need to figure out as the time goes along. I need to figure out my schedule, but regardless, I'm going to try and get more content out for you all. Thank you all for sticking around as I kind of have a lull in content for you guys right now. But I have a long video planned for this one, so let's just get right into it. The way our new pattern is about to set up here, with the lows coming in from British Columbia moving southward, it's going to be very interesting. It's going to be very dangerous, and it's going to provide some very big low pressure systems to move around and about Canada, with potential impacts into the U.S. as far down as the southeast. So let's just get into it. Right now, I'm going to use the base GFS because this is the most reliable thing we've had at the moment. It's definitely going to be something that needs to be checked on every so often. And there are different model sources, obviously, that you use for different things. But just for base here, the GFS has some consistency here, as it fails to load, has some consistency that there's going to be some big cyclone that moves through and around this hour range. So first of all, you can see what is supposed to be Laura down here in the south. You can see what that is at the moment. It's supposed to just move through. 14 is supposed to just fizz, according to this. But the GFS is actually showing Laura for the first time actually doing something. 967, that would be, I believe, Category 3 status, if not strong Category 2. But then it just barrels in. Definitely something to keep in mind. It's something I'm going to get to later in the video. The GFS has some agreement that this low over here is going to produce a few different things here. One, it's going to get pretty strong, so as you can see already there, it's a 989, trying to do something there. Two, snow pockets are going to be evident with this low, so you can see right in there, these are higher elevations, but it is something to keep in mind. Places in Saskatchewan, Alberta could start seeing some snow soon. But as time just goes along with this low, you can see it just sits there. Strengthens, words. I swear, every time I make one of these videos, I just fail to produce any English. Anyway, it strengthens, it matures, and then continues to go on its path, as we can see here. Weakens out for a little bit, fizzes for a little bit, but then, down here, it produces two different lows. So you can see here, one, the mother low right here, and then 2, 3 developing along it, as you can see from the just pressure bars going down and around. The sub-lows are actually going to be very interesting to watch. In fact, they interact interestingly with these different storms, and the severity of these storms is yet to be seen. But these lows are definitely going to have a big part of severe weather placement and strength of them as well. So I've seen several instances, according to these runs, of good bit of severe weather going up through here, through this portion of the United States and Canada. Great Lakes could be seeing some stuff. Northeast could actually get some severe weather as well, which is definitely interesting, just due to this low's placement and in the location of these states in proximity to the low. But as you can see, some big cold front ends up developing, just going across the country from the Great Lakes down into Death Valley, and looks like we could get some stronger storms developing through the mid-plains, maybe some weaker storms up by the Great Lakes. But again, this is just one run, and this is pretty far out, so it's really hard to tell. But there is a bunch of model consistency that there will be some sort of storms moving through, or some sort of pressure systems that are going to move through and have some fairly serious impacts going on throughout the next few weeks here. So let's go here to the 200 millibar wind, just see what's going on higher up. This has a lot of interesting things to say, but something that particularly jumps out at me is the continuation of jet going through into the mid-Atlantic. We saw something jetting up into southeast today, which actually produced a marginal risk. But you can see definitely some sort of good flow moving along and up through into Canada, eventually through to the northeast. Not what I meant to click there. As you can see with these lows up here in the north, get some strengthening going on, and the jet apparently over here strengthens and matures actually really nicely. So you can see along this area, get a stronger patch of 200 millibar jet ranging anywhere from, it looks like, 90, 80 or so, all the way up to 120 in particular spots. So that's spotty again, and you need to really get closer to be able to tell what's going to happen there. But it is a very telling sign going forward for what could potentially be happening. As you scroll along, the jet actually gets stronger up in here. You can see 125, 126, 127 there even. So definitely going to need to keep an eye on the northeast throughout the next week or so, depending on how that actually plays out. Could actually see some severe weather up there, depending on how the jet ends up playing in. In fact, the SPC issued 3 consecutive risks. In fact, the risk for today, in fact, got taken out. But they issued 3 consecutive marginal risks because of this jet, and enough wind energy to get something going. So, just scrolling along, you can see jet definitely gets interesting, gets pretty strong up here. You can see big ridge going up into Canada, and then it kind of flattens out at the bottom here and gets pretty strong down in here as well. So, this is a particular reason to watch this area for severe weather if you can get enough wind energy, and even can see next frame, it goes up into the 140s. So, definitely something to monitor for potential severe weather. Now, then, this is very concerning, and this has been showing up over several runs at this point, several days of runs. This new pattern that we're going to have set up is going to favor very strong lows, very strong troughs, and could favor severe weather widespread, depending on the timing and placement of everything here. But as you can see, really big dip in the trough here, and you can go all the way up into Wyoming, Montana, Dakotas. You can see jet pretty high there. And then it really flattens out and just steamrolls through Quebec. From that point, you can see it just goes insane. 160 right there. Again, this is 200. This is really what's going on in the sky, which is something to keep in mind, but that's just the basis of where you're going to see a bunch of the weather here. And then you can see another weird dip in the trough. That's not what I wanted to do. You can see another weird dip in the trough here. It almost goes ahead and does a 90, just along that line, which is something to note. And then behind it, looks like it could have something interesting too, but that's for a later date. Let's take a look at the 850, which could be a better indication of what happens at the surface here. You can see it does definitely try and punch over the 25th, so this would be as a low dips towards the northeast. Not a whole lot there, as you can see, but definitely some, so maybe you could get some scattered convection if you have enough wind energy there. You can see the next day, though. I mean, that is a lot better, a lot more widespread. Planes, again, this has been a very common fact at this point. 50 knots bulk, not bulk, 850 at that point, which is definitely something to keep in mind, and then just Laura hanging out there. You can see this low actually matures nicely as it heads off towards Greenland and away from the United States. So as Laura actually comes into the country, you can see it actually starts to play some impacts going into the Great Lakes. You can see some energy actually getting sucked from the storm up towards the main area jet that's going on here in the Great Lakes. So, could you see some enhanced severe weather due to Laura making impacts on land? Could be. Difficult to tell as of now. We have to see how Laura actually places, and we have to see if both Laura and Marco at this point try and just go completely mental and just do cyclogenesis or whatever. Later topic. That's definitely something that would be devastating if that were to happen. You can see again jet punching over the Great Lakes Northeast Mid-Atlantic area again, and you're probably going to see some enhanced severe weather. I'm expecting good amount of tornadoes coming out of Laura if it happens to make landfall on impact. And I will get to tropical activity later in the video. So this low up here is the one that produces snow, and it actually tries to just go physically insane. You can see the jet here just kind of curling around completely. Just something I can't say I've seen in a little bit. But you can see a lot of jet up and down the plains due to this low. Now you're going to get a lot of energy going up and down here. You could get some enhanced severe weather, not like enhanced risk, but the enhanced possibility of some severe weather going in there. You can see it lingers there too. Have a little bit of a punch in the moisture, Jesus. And then you can see it just goes off, and I don't know what it does, but it just goes physically insane. You get another low there, and then another potential tropical system there, and another jet punch down towards the northeast in New England. And then this thing, which, quite frankly, I don't want to think about at the moment. There's a lot going on already. Something else interesting about this is the temperature anomaly, and I wanted to bring this up with a bunch of other people, but they seem to just wrote me off. So something interesting about these temperatures is the dips and sudden changes in said temperatures. So, for example, here, middle of the plains, temperatures rise well above average, and then potentially spreads all the way through into the northeast. You can see with Laura, brings a little bit of cool down there, but that's typical with all tropical cyclones. Now, we're talking with this big bomb here. It's warm on this side, cool on this side, which is probably not something is not a good thing to see. You go along, you can see temperatures really dip due to this low, and they're higher on the other end, on this other side of this cold front here. So you can see they just get obscenely hot up over near Nebraska, and then obscenely cold down in Montana, etc. And then you can see a big heat surge behind that as well. It's definitely something to keep in mind, and then potentially another bomb showing up there. I remember seeing earlier, though, a big dip in the northeast of like 26 degrees or something like that. So anything could really play out here. It just depends on the placement of the lows and the direction of them. Where could the dips in energy and moisture happen in that particular area? In terms of severe weather dynamics, I really don't take a look at this for the GFS, but we can just get a basic consensus of it here, as my pivotal lags beyond belief. Looks like Minnesota, Wisconsin, Plains, looks like it gets it again, which has been the theme all summer. Can see it actually starts to blow up over Midwest a little bit there as well. But then the transition happens, and this is concerning. This is what had to do with that low, and you in fact can see the cold front there extending along and down. So the potential for severe weather up there is variable. It's definitely something that's going to need to be monitored. And after this, severe weather just basically flattens. It gets a little dry at that point. So that's definitely something else to keep in mind. Bulk shear, I don't typically use this, but as you can see, there is definitely favorable energy going over into the northeast as well as the plains. In addition to that, you get this big low here, the one that bombs out. You can get a lot of bulk shear energy from that. and it eventually flattens out, does its own thing in Canada, and basically moves on its way out. This looks concerning. I'm going to have to monitor that going into the future. At this point, I would like to transition into our next topic, Geologics. Now, I don't consider myself as a big expert on this at all, but there are a few things that are pointing out to me and a few things that I've done a little bit of research on that I would like to point out. First of all, I figure I might as well start with what is leading up to this. So, according to recent data analysis, there has been a surge of energy up here in the islands of Alaska. I don't actually remember what those are called. I looked it up before the video, now I can't remember. Things you love to see. Quality content on the Royal NYR 54 channel. There's been a surge of energy along this fault line extending in towards Alaska, and there's been a bunch of earthquakes actually reported 4 to 5 in magnitude, going up and along these areas up here. In fact, there was one reported in Anchorage the other day of, I believe, 3-ish. Again, these aren't strong, but it could be a sign for something to come. So I just want to address it now and get it out of the way. According to data analysis, the energy is supposed to be transitioning along the fault line and south soon enough. And what also concerns me is the fact that bugs are in my way. It's the fact that we've seen a bunch of smaller earthquakes up and around California today. I saw one in the Bay Area the other day and also one down near Anaheim. 3 to 5-ish. It's something to keep in mind, particularly if we're talking about these areas. If you get a surge of energy, you could see something big. And we have definitely seen bigger earthquakes in the past, in the Bay Area, LA area, etc. It's definitely something to keep in mind, something that needs, and a possibility that needs to be left on the plate here as we go along. It's been there have been a lot of interesting features to note. So first of all, you guys can see this lonely earthquake up here in Idaho. There have been a bunch of those reported, smaller 2 to 3 ones reported up here in Iowa, as my phone actually goes off with an earthquake notification. There have been a few smaller ones reported up near Idaho, and basically they're all in the same place from what I've seen as well, which is definitely something to monitor as well. I've seen earthquakes, there have been some down here, and I've seen a few in Oklahoma as well over the past few days. There was one up in Utah, and can't forget a week ago, the one that took place in North Carolina, and then up here in Michigan. Now, for reference, and if you guys are in Storm Central or ASFN, etc., which are Discord servers, you guys know Walter, etc. In fact, shout out to him, one of the best friends I could ever ask for. He actually was near the center of this today, the center just off of Monroe, which is over Lake, and it actually went over Lake Erie, just as you can see, just off the coast of Lake Erie. That's concerning to me, and the reason being is because you don't typically expect any kind of geological activity going on out there. Now, I am aware that there is a fault line going on in and around there, but it's not usually active, it doesn't usually pick up, and according to him, as he lives around that area, he thinks there could be something else stronger on the way. It's something to monitor, and particularly there is actually there is actually a nuclear plant just off the coast, where near probably 2,000 feet from the epicenter or something like that, just on the shoreline. So that is something to keep in mind, something that's going to need to be monitored very, very closely as we go on today. Potentially, there could be more impacts in and around that area. But something that is jumping out at me is the fact that I've seen numerous earthquakes being reported just up and down the country. So I've mentioned over there, I saw a few in Oklahoma the other day, saw Utah, North Carolina, of course, Idaho, and there was even one in Yellowstone earlier today, too. Or yesterday, excuse me. It is currently 01:38 the next day. So just, it's something that we need to closely monitor here, and I think potentially if we watch everything else going on here, could Yellowstone be seeing some more activity? And I don't want to really throw that idea out in a horrible way, but there hasn't been a whole lot of activity going on there in the recent time. So it's just something to keep an eye on. And of course, the energy that. Sorry, I thought there was a bug. And of course, the energy I mentioned from Alaska drooping south towards California and up the San Andreas Fault. Definitely something that's going to need to be monitored quite closely. Hurricanes. Now, I mentioned those when I was going through the GFS run, and something that is definitely something that needs to be closely monitored. Something that definitely needs to be closely monitored, because particularly with the path of Laura, the difference in where it goes can be very changing. So currently Laura is sitting out here in the 29 degrees, just having some fun. Marco's sitting over here in the 30. Depending on where Laura goes, if it ends up splitting here and going up, it might have a better chance of survival than if it went up here, because the waters are slightly cooler up there. If it happens to split the gap between the Keys and Cuba, it's going to need to be monitored, because at that point it'll likely interact with Marcos. It moves so slowly up towards the Gulf. If it can actually meet in the middle here, we could be talking about some sort of big bomb, and I don't really want to throw that idea out there, but it is not out of the question. Particularly, we've seen the track of Laura. In fact, I will pull that up right now as I try and draw a dot on that tab. The track of Laura is definitely variable at this point. As you can see, they seem to have a decent amount of uncertainty, but they also seem to have a decent amount of certainty that it goes right over Cuba now. Which could, God, I'm getting the hiccups, which could hinder its development as it moves through up towards the Gulf of Mexico in and around here. Now, of course, that idea is quite ominous for the time being, but if it happened to actually track a little bit further north and actually head towards the Keys, probably have a better chance of strengthening, because it would have a lot more open water. It wouldn't really have as much interference with land, as the Bahamas are islands. If it happened to track up that area, you could potentially see a little bit more strengthening, as it could head towards Pensacola, could head towards the Florida-Alabama border, could head towards Orleans. Hard to tell as of now. 5 days out, you need to get a better idea of everything going on, but it's definitely something to monitor, keep in mind. If you guys happen to reside anywhere from, I'd say, Peninsula of Florida all the way through into Texas, you guys are going to need to monitor this. Definitely keep that in mind. Potentially, you might need to get your safe kits in check. Make sure you have all the necessary supplies you would need to last several amounts of days without power, water, etc., as the zipper on my jacket is currently trying to kill itself, so we're just going to do that really quickly. The pitfall with this is actually where it ends up moving over water. So it could, there's another earthquake. So it could either track up over here where it heads towards cooler waters, or it could head through where it's really, really warm and moist up through into the Gulf. Or, hell, it could just do this. It could do an Isaias. Although Isaias was not this far south. Who knows? It's really hard to tell as of now, and Laura's been a very uncertain storm for a very long time now. So it's definitely something that we're going to have to keep in mind, continue to monitor, etc., etc. Oh, frick this, I'm going to deal with this later. At this point, I don't expect a whole lot to come out of it, so I had brought up the idea of potentially it going Cat 2 or Cat 3. I don't see it going Cat 5, which I've seen some people say, and I thought, are you dumb? The reason being, it really just doesn't have enough time, and if it actually does happen to go over this area in and around here, you could end up getting something interesting going, so you're going to have to keep that in mind as well. The analysis of everything going on here, and I will pull up some different models at this point, particularly the H-WRF, just for jokes at this point. The H-WRF wants everybody to die. and upon several runs at this point of it, it just looks weird. And the reason being is it has it just going insane. It goes ape shit. And I would like to also mention, if you happen to reside in around Florida or anywhere where this storm's going to brush up against you, you're going to need to keep that in mind. A bunch of these bands are likely going to be tornadic due to their isolation and strength as well. So you can see H-Wharf has this a 948 as it continues to barrel towards the coast. 932, 934, 934, 935, 935, 935, 933, 935, 936, landfall. Whether or not I can take this is something else. The likelihood of this actually happening is very, very low here, and I honestly don't expect something like this to occur. So the HMON has it in 964, which seems more realistic in the moment. Let's just take a look at the GFS para, just to get a decent idea of what could be going on with this storm. If I remember correctly, yeah, so the para has Marco going apeshit, as it becomes a 956 before barreling into Louisiana. And it really just says Laura dying off, as you can see just down here, meandering over Keys, etc. So then it just has it dissipate. Different model runs have shown the possibility of it actually being swept into a different low up here. So kind of what Cristobal did, where it weakened and then got sucked up by this. And in fact, it produced the moderate over Michigan that day. If that actually were to occur, then you would probably see widespread rainfall just up and down the mid-Atlantic and northeast Great Lakes. Probably just see widespread amounts of rain, because not only would moisture get sucked down from this, but the moisture from the low would actually continue to go. So you just get widespread amounts of rain over this area. Just something to keep in mind. We're beginning to wrap up the video here. Just general guidelines here. The earthquake situation is really not something that needs to be taken too seriously yet. It is definitely something to monitor, and particularly if you live in California or live near the San Andreas fault line, you're going to need to monitor that as well. If you start to see smaller earthquakes, it could be leading up to something big. So if you happen to live in one of those areas that is affected by smaller earthquakes on a daily basis at this point, just monitor that. Just keep an eye on it. Make sure you have an application or something like that that could tell you if an earthquake happens in and around your area. And continue to monitor data analysis if you can, of where the energy would be transferring to. It probably is in your best interest, if you live around there, to watch out for your own safety as well as the safety of others as well. That will basically wrap up this video. This went way longer than I had anticipated here. But good video, really covered a good amount of everything that I had intended to cover. Something I haven't done in a while, and I mean to make more videos all the time, so I am going to do that for everybody going forward. Keep an eye on that. Make sure you have your post notifications on for streaming and for videos. That's going to basically wrap this up. Thank you all so much for tuning in to this forecasting geological whatever video. It's really just a mix of everything going on right now. If you guys did enjoy this, I'm so accustomed to say, if you guys enjoyed the severe weather coverage live stream, but this is not a severe weather coverage live stream. It's 1:47 in the morning and absolutely nothing is happening. If you guys did enjoy this forecasting video, please be sure to leave a like rating down below. Also hit the subscribe button if you guys are new around here, and click the notification bell if you guys want to be notified every time I go live or post a new video. And that will do it for me. I will see you guys in the next live stream or video. Take care. Peace out.